Hey, Sonny here. Today we're going to continue our lesson on Mean Street by Van Halen. Please look at my first video, which covers the intro, and also play the verse in regular speed. So let me play. I'm going to break it down by section because every time he plays the phrasing, it's played differently. All right, so let me play phrase by phrase, and we're going to go over each one separately. So here's the first one. Slow down. All right, so that's two measures here. The first measure, it goes like this. And it's all surrounding the A minor pentatonic scale. And it's basically the middle part of the A minor pentatonic scale. So the first one is a fifth fret of D and G string together, and then 7th fret on the D string twice, and then D5, G5, and D7 again. And the next part is D7, A7, and then D5, and then D7, and pull off on D5. So far we have this. Again, this is like a pentatonic in the middle section of the A minor pentatonic scale. Okay, the second measure is similar to that. We play D and G together, 5th fret, 7th fret on the D string twice, and then 7th fret on an A string, and you play open D, G, and B together. That's basically a G chord. He's playing open D, G, and B. So those two measures for the first phrasing. Let's do it again, slowly. Okay, second phrasing. The first measure of second phrasing is as similar as the first phrase. The first measure of second phrasing is the same as the first measure of the first phrasing we just did. So it goes like this. That part doesn't change. The second measure changes, and it goes like this. So it's all harmonic there. When I say harmonics, when you put the fingers over between frets, over the wire, and slightly touching the string, you pick it, so you create harmonic. Okay? So the notes are 5th fret of D and G together, and 7th fret of D twice, and then 7th fret on the A, and 5th fret on the D. And you play the harmonic on the 5th harmonic on the D string, 5th fret. When I say 5th fret, basically between 5th and 6th fret on the right on the wire, barely touching the string, and you just pick it. You let your hand go. So you play the 5th fret there, and the 5th fret of B string, 5th fret harmonic on the G string, and 7th fret 7th fret on the D string. I use my ring finger. So I use my index finger to play the harmonics on the 5th fret, and then I use my ring finger to play the harmonic on the 7th fret. So I play the D string, 7th fret, and G string, 7th fret. And I slide my hand down. I use the same ring finger. I'll play the 12th fret harmonic on the D string first, 12th fret on the B string, and the G string, 12th fret. So the harmonic again. I'm sorry. So it's D5, B5, G5, D7, G7, D12, B12, and G12. So the second phrasing, the whole thing on second phrasing goes like this. So you can work on each phrasing at a time, one phrase at a time until you get it all together and you put it together. All right, so the third phrase, on the third phrasing, the first measure is exactly the same as what we just did on the first measure of first phrasing. It's the same thing as the first measure of second phrasing. So in the third phrasing, the first measure is the same, goes like this. Actually, it's slightly different, goes like, I'm sorry. So the difference is that you play, instead of playing D5, G5, and then D7, you'll play twice on D5 and then to D7. So on the first phrasing and second phrasing, the first measure goes like this. Now, the first measure on this third phrasing goes like this. You hear the difference? It goes like this. That's the difference. Okay, and the second measure of the third phrasing goes like this. Okay, so what I'm doing is I play the 5th fret on D and G together, and then D7 fret on the twice, and then D5, G5, and D7, and you kind of mute and you play D7, D5 3 times, and you play D5 1 time, and then A7 3 times. So kind of group 4 notes together. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So okay, so that's the third phrasing. Okay. Now the fourth phrasing, the first measure is exactly like what we just did in the first measure of the third phrasing. But instead of hammer on the 7th fret and pull off on 5th fret, you just hold on to the 5th fret on the D string. So and then I kind of muting the string with my hand barely touching the string. Kind of just rack your fingers down on the basically on the D, G, and B string. So I do it 7 times and then it ends on the 5th fret of D and G string. Okay. Just in case you're not clear what the notes are on the first measure, is D and G string on 5th fret together, 7th fret on the D, and then D string 5th fret twice, 7th fret on the D, and then D7, A7, D5. Okay, so now we're going to put one first phrasing, second phrasing, third and fourth phrasing together slowly. Alright, so after that part, it's going to go to the singing starts, and that's the verse. And basically, you're playing similar to what we just did, an octave lower. So, so you're playing the A minor pentatonic on the 5/7 on the D and 5/7 on the G. So basically, now we're focusing on the 3/5 and 3/5 on the low E and A string. Okay, so it goes like this. Basically, it's octave lower. I'm sorry. and repeat repeat that part over and over. So the first measure goes like this. Get a little harmonic at the end. So you play the third fret on the A string, you pull off on the open string, you pick the open string again, and then the third fret on the E, and play the third fret again on the A and pull off on the open string, open string A, open E, and third fret on the E. So the whole thing slowly. Second measure. So what I'm doing is I'll play the third fret on the A string, pull off on open string, A, and then play the A string again, and then third fret on the E, third fret on the A string, pull off open, open A string again, and then third fret on the E string 3 times. So basically you go open A and then low E string third fret 3 times. So basically playing groups of four notes together. And then you play the third fret on the low E string, pull off on open string, and you play twice, 2 more times on the low E string. So that's like 4 notes in the group. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So the second measure slowly goes like this. So the whole thing slowly, both measure together. Okay. Now this is some variation. There was only one slight variation the next time he plays it. It goes like this. So instead of playing on the last note, instead of playing on the third fret on the low E string, he'll play open D and G string together. It's the same chord as part of the G chord. He just played this different notes. All right, so that's pretty much it. The verse, and then repeat it over and over again. And when you do the last part, slightly mute the string, and so you got a chunky sound to it. Okay, so after the intro verse, that brings us to the chorus section of Mean Street, and the chorus section goes like this. It goes back to the verse. So here's slowly the first part of the chorus. So what I'm doing is I play the third fret on the A string, pull off on open A string, and then you mute, and you pick the open A string 3 more times, and you play the 5th fret of D and G string together. The next part, you play the 3rd fret on the A string, you pull off with the open string, and you only play open A string 1 time, and you play the 3rd fret on the A string, slide up to 5th fret on the A string. Goes like this. Slowly again. So the whole thing so far we have this. Next part is similar to that, but instead of playing the 5th fret of D and G, we'll play the 7th fret of D and G. You go back to that same riff again. The next part, exact same thing, but instead of playing 7th fret of D and G together, we'll play these 10th fret of D and G together. And this time I'll use my ring finger. And then that little part is different. So instead of playing, so you play open A string twice, and you play the F chord, F power chord, which is A8, D10, and G10. And then you play the G power chord at the 10th position. So it's A10, D12, and G12. Alright, so far, all together we have so far was like this. Next part. So what I'm doing is I play the same thing again. I play the 3rd fret on the open, 3rd fret of A string, pull off on the open A string, and you mute pick 3 times on the A string open, and you play this A power chord at the 7th position. So I have D7, G9, and B10. You do a pick slide. Personally, I don't like the pick slide. It's like a fingernail scratching on the chalkboard. But you can just slide if you don't like that too. But Eddie Van Halen does it. He's pick slide, which I don't like it. Anyway, so you do a pick slide, and then you do the same thing again. You play the 3rd fret on the A string. You pull off on the A open string, mute and pick open A string 3 times, and then you play the D and G string at 5th fret together. And you play the little riff again I showed you earlier. And then next time you do the same thing again, you play the 7th fret of D and G together. Now this time you just slide down your hand on the low E string, and you start from 5th fret. And you play the open A power chord. That's open A string, 2nd fret of D. And then D open power chord. And that's open D string, 2nd fret of G, and 3rd fret of B. And then you play the open E power chord. Basically, it's open E string, 2nd fret of A string, and you mute and pick it 8 times, and 9 times. I'm sorry. You play on the 9th, and the 9th time you will play the whole chord instead of muting it. So like that. So the whole thing slowly again from the top. A power chord, D, and a low E, and an open E power chord, and it goes back to the verse, lower volume, and it goes back to that riff again. So that's pretty much the whole song, except the bridge and the solo, and I'll cover the bridge on a separate video. Thanks for watching.